Hello, I'm male feminist Anders Bloom. Give you a big welcome.
As you say, even though they did this crazy move out of nowhere to you overnight, it did work out because your last event with Big was the RMR, and the team 3-0'd, and in it you had like the Outsiders team, who by the way later in the year wins the fucking major, and then you 2-0'd FaZe. They could fucking win the Antwerp majors. This is when they were winning everything. So this is like an outrageous result. How did this happen?
Yeah, it was. We were having a boot camp right before, right, and things didn't really go well in the boot camp. I don't know. We were not just. I mean, it was mediocre results. I want to say practice-wise, right? We were not performing super well and all these kind of things. And then Thorin just pulled everybody aside, just made sure that we are pretty much aligned with our visions or what we have in mind with the event coming up with the RMR. And he just made sure that people understood the seriousness of the situation and all these kind of things, right? And then just going into the event, we also were prepared very well when it comes to the opponents. So the coaching staff, including me, obviously, we knew that there's like 15 possibilities with the Swiss format or of the opponents that we can have in the opening round. So we prepared for every fucking opponent that was out there. We prepared like 3 or 4 maps, right? And there was just like 3 people pretty much doing these 45 to 60 maps in total of watching enemies and just being prepared for what is about to come, so that we're not surprised and we don't need to like be working night shifts or whatever. And everything started going well in the first match against Saw, I believe.
Yes.
We played against Saw. We beat them pretty convincingly. I think 16-3, 16-5 or something like this. It was very, very one-sided. Next one was Outsiders, like you said, also best of one. They made the biggest mistake ever, in my opinion, of just letting us play Dust 2 against them, because I think everybody knows
the most famous German map of all time. Yeah.
And this is I don't know, it was crazy. Why did they play Dust 2 against us? Because I mean, Thorin is like knows this map and he's the best caller on Dust 2, in my opinion. Or not sure about CS2 right now, but in CSGO, I think he was one of the best, if not the best caller on Dust 2. And we were phenomenal on the map. And we just also stumped them. And they also had a really weird game plan coming into us. They were constantly stacking and gambling B as CT. And also, I think it was also quite lopsided. I think it was also single digits that we kept them 16-8, 16-9 or something. And then the FaZe match, everything went really well. And we ended up, I mean, we played FaZe a couple of weeks before or months before in Blast, if I remember correctly. And we lost 2-1. We played Overpass, Nuke, and Dust 2. Overpass, we beat them 16-2. Nuke, we lost 16-1, which was really weird, right? Beating them 16-2, then losing 16-1, and then Dust 2 was a 16-14 loss. And then going into the one best of 3 at PGL RMR, we didn't really know what to expect. We picked Dust 2 against them. We beat them this time on Dust 2, which was also really going well. Everybody was popping off, hitting shots. We were getting along off and off the server really well. And then Mirage was very, very much of a nail biter. And if we don't win this one, if it isn't for Thorin and winning, like he popped off in the last 3 or 4 rounds against FaZe, and we won a full eco, I believe, with 1 P250 and 2 flashes, just popping on B side, and that kind of made us change our game plan coming into the last couple of rounds, and me taking a timeout in the very last, right before the last round, and coming up with a call what we could be doing, and then us playing that. Actually, we misplayed it a tiny bit, but we still managed to win the round thanks to Thorin, because he was clutching in the end 1-on-2, if I remember correctly, against Twist, and I don't remember who it was, but yeah, luckily we managed to beat this one, and I was feeling on top of the world after that one, right? Because FaZe at the time, they were number 1 team in the world, and yeah, it was just a great fucking moment to beat them and qualify as legends into the major.
Right, when you got this result, how do you then wind up not even going to the major and being in Big anymore? What the fuck happened?
Yeah, that is a bit of a weird situation, right? I mean, I told you before that right before we had a bootcamp before the RMR, and Thorin was addressing specific things, and it was also like how my approach was and how I was seeing things, and we were not fully aligned. Like the synergy between me and Thorin was unfortunately not the best. Because we were just having different kind of visions and philosophies. And so they already made the decision already before the RMR that they're going to be replacing me with gla1ve, because gla1ve at the time made also the decision to step down from Valorant and be transitioning back to CSGO. And he was also assisting us doing the RMR in Bucharest, and he was helping the players a lot with one-on-one sessions and all these kind of things. And they already made the decision before the event that they're going to be replacing me because, again, like I said, it's a bit of his vision was like, we need to be working harder. I was like, okay, we might not be needing like to grind 6-7 days a week. You know, we could be needing a need of some time off here and there just to kind of have that comfort zone where everybody is at. And yeah, unfortunately, like I said, I was then the same day of flight, like we qualified, I don't know what it was, like a Friday or something. We fly home Saturday, and while I'm at the airport, you know, I get the phone call already, like, hey, by the way, we want you all of a sudden at the assistant coach. And I'm like, yeah, okay, let me think about this. They wanted to have me as still on the coaching staff as the assistant coach under Gob, right? And I said, yeah, I'm not sure, I have to think about it. And yeah, I'm obviously going from feeling on top of the world, qualifying for the majors and legend stage, and then next day, you know, your shit hits the fan. It was a bit surreal, to be honest with you, right? But I mean, like I said earlier, it was very stressful, very hectic time with us changing so many players in such short time and changing the playbook and everything. We were very impatient when it comes to our results, our play style changes, and all these kind of things. I'm still very thankful for the time because I learned so much. And yeah, not only like CS wise, but also on a personal level. Like I said, I'm very thankful for the time, and I hope that Big is doing well again soon.
Right, obviously, the way you've talked about Big has been very respectful, and you enjoyed your time there, blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to ask you a slightly edgy question, since you did bring up a detail that has come up as a theme in a lot of my interviews with players who played in Big, which goes like this. It is about those two players. It is about Tabson as the in-game leader and Gobby when he's the coach. And even I've heard Toby was like this before your time, which is... Look, I get that it's part of the German approach too. It's like the Protestant work ethic. It's the idea, like, I mean, Toby once said it best. He does believe in that famous saying, which only Germans believe in, which is like, if you arrive on time, you're late. And if you arrive 5 minutes early, you're on time, which is like, what? And also, by the way, in the modern day, that isn't youngsters in this generation and not CS players. CS players will come 15 minutes late if you don't tell them, you know. So the reason I ask this is, I can see some aspects like that where, like, you know, arrive on time for the meeting, that's professionalism, you know, put in your hours so you know you did a diligent job. But my problem goes like this, right? I get the vibe in that team. It's 24/7 grind. It's like you just have to give your life to the game. And the problem I have is this, NKJ. I respect and admire that if Tabson does that. If he chooses as a person, that's like those stories of like Kobe Bryant doing that or whatever, right? But the difference is that's an individual choosing to put themselves through that. It's not like he's making all his teammates do that every day and they have to be there at 3 a.m. So the question, it's a bit controversial, maybe Germans won't like this question, is... do they overgrind? Do they practice too much? Should they give a little bit, I don't know, a bit more freedom or some breaks and stuff, or only have like 5 days a week or whatever? What's your take on this kind of sensitive topic?
Yes, obviously it's a bit of a touchy subject, right? I mean, me personally, I'm much more aligned when it comes to like, okay, we need to be having time off for ourselves, because people at the end of the day, if you travel to every fucking event, you just see them more often than your loved ones, your family, your girlfriends.
Yeah.
So having time off for yourself is really important, right? Whereas when I came in, you know, it feels like the big way to go about things. Okay, if things are not working, you have to work even harder, you know, like you have to work even harder. And if you already are working 5 or 6 days or 6 or 7 days a week, then you have to work maybe even like, I don't know, 16 hours a day or something, like this, right? And Tabson is doing this in his own way, right? I mean, and he's kind of, I think, expecting it also from a lot of his players. At least that was it back then, right? I don't know how it is right now. I don't know, because they brought in also Toby as a coach, or as a performance coach right now, if I remember correctly. And from what I understand from talking to some of the players there, I think things have already changed in that manner, and I think that that's the right approach. But yeah, it's kind of, I want to say it's expected at Big to work harder than everybody else, even though you're already feeling maybe a bit fatigued and like your energy is very low. They still expect you to not only go the extra mile, but to go even more than the extra mile, you know? And yeah, that's not always the best way, right? Because if you're feeling a bit fatigued, you're tired, you all of a sudden might fuck up more things when it comes to strategies. So yeah, it's a bit difficult.
Because when you say there that you had the offer, you know, you can stay as assistant coach. I will throw this out there as well. Obviously, it's not like Gobby's still there now. Like, Actually, if you'd said assistant coach, maybe you could have rotated back in. Maybe you could have been the coach again. Instead, the reason why it's a big move to say no is after this, you had to go to Entropiq. And I'm not talking about the one in 2021 that was the Russian team. This is the roster no one remembers, mate. Like, this could actually, you could make an argument. This is like in football, going down a division. Like, you might just never come up again if you don't get the right stars come along and a bit of luck. You can get trapped in that tier 2, tier 3 cycle of just playing a million online games and cops no one watches. What was this period of your career like?
Yeah, it was again also a bit of a weird situation for me coming into Entropiq, right? Because it was the time that I was coming in was almost towards the end of the player break, so people already made a lot of roster moves. There was not a lot of players left on the market, and I didn't also have an IGL like in the time that I could I felt comfortable like bringing in. So I asked Tizian also, like finally working with Tizian. I asked Tizian if he could like envision himself transitioning from like this kind of supportive role or element that he was to an IGL. And I mean, he did have a lot of experience working together with Tapson for 5 years in GOB, right? So I naturally saw him being that kind of person, and also knowing him as a person and as a player, I think he could have been doing the right thing, or could have been the right move for him. But yeah, this just Entropiq was a lot of times we're just scouting players, like who could we possibly be getting. For us, we also, when I was brought in, they already had signed Fawzi as an AWPer, right? And Fawzi, I don't remember exactly. I think he was on Sinners before, but he got benched there. And he was already signed to the team, so we couldn't unfortunately bring in an AWPer that we did have in mind. And keep in mind, at the time when we were like putting the team together, Jasun, for example, was on the bench of Big, and Kito, I think, was on the bench of Big as well. And we could have brought them in, but unfortunately we're not able to. Right, because for example, like they already had signed Fawzi as an AWPer, so there's no more possibility to bring in another AWPer. And if we could have maybe brought in Susan, maybe we could have also attracted JDC to sign and all these kind of things. So we're kind of left with I don't necessarily want to be saying leftovers of the transfer market. This sounds a bit too disrespectful, but we were unfortunately not able to get like kind of the players or the level of players Tizian and I had hoped for. Right, we did bring in still a lot of good players with a lot of talent and also with a good work ethic. But just for the level that Tizian and I were both used to playing, it was obviously a bit of a downgrade, but it was still really, really joyful time and good time because Tizian, I got to work with a good friend of mine, Tizian, helping him to develop as an IGL, helping young players to develop. This is also something, that is bringing really joy to my life as well, and helping players to develop as a player. This is really satisfying to me, and to see them get better and apply these things that I teach them or where I help them to teach, to learn, whatever. This felt really good for me because it was kind of like my project, even though we were not really successful, even though we almost managed to go to the close qualifier, but we lost to Spirit and some other teams in the before the close qualifier. I mean, it was a bit of a rough spell, you want to say.
I did see, though, that in this team, a few months before the end, you actually had the player you have now, Podi, who was an ENCE Academy player, and you actually did like football style, like a little loan. He came over to this team. And so, who was he back then?
I mean, Podi was not in Entropiq. We were considering him signing him to Entropiq. He ended up in Sprout. He ended up in Sprout for like...
the teams, fair enough, okay.
Yeah, no worries. He ended up being loaned to Sprout for... I think maybe 2 weeks, and then the Sprout thing unfortunately all fell down, right? Yeah. But we were also considering signing him or Regali in the end, but we ended up going with Regali because he was just much more known of an AWPer, right? And it was obviously more attractive in certain aspects for the front office. And yeah, but Podi is, he's a Finnish guy, right? When it comes to him showing his emotions and all these kind of things, it's, if you have never like encountered a Finnish person before, it's like going to be like a bit weirder.
Put it this way, if people saw Elisa Masters, he was actually going really out of his comfort zone there, and really like the silly thing with the chain and stuff like that. That's not normally who this guy is, right? He was kind of like trying to step out of his shell a little bit, right?
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, Podi is a really funny guy. Like once you get to know him, like all Finnish people are, I think, very funny in their own way, right? You
just got to unlock them. You got to get past that first awkwardness, right?
Exactly. They are very sarcastic people as well, very friendly. He's a great guy. He is a nice player when it comes to his mechanics, right? He is still young. He still has to learn and how to improve day in and day out, not only as a player but also as a person, right? He's doing a really good job though when it comes to working on his objectives. We work very closely together, like what he needs to improve on, what he can be doing better. He knows how he can improve, and it's up to him. He does have a lot of potential. I think you can see it, or you probably saw it at times at Elisa Masters Espoo when he was popping off. Like, he does have a very high skill ceiling, right? It's just a matter of him putting in the work to consistently achieve these performances. He knows what he needs to be doing. He is currently trying his best to achieving so or doing so, and I really enjoy working with him. And I'm excited for what the future holds.
Right, I'll go back to that again. I've got an angle I've still got on that one. But let's ask this question first. How do you go from that team to then a break to then suddenly you're in ENCE? Because obviously ENCE had like Cuban, who's a big name coach. It didn't work out in the squad or whatever. But you'd think after that, you're going to try and sign another big name. So how did you get this gig?
That's a good question. I think I will have to thank my agent for this, right?
Wow.
I mean, it was obviously I saw the news, or I heard from some friends that ENCE might be benching Cuban, or ENCE might be doing a change to their roster because they failed to qualify for the major, right?
Yep.
And I heard that they might be going either replace Cuban or maybe the entire roster. I don't know. So I just shot a message to my agent, told him like, hey, could you please reach out to them, ask them for an interview. I also wrote gla1ve directly on Steam, like, hey, how's it going? I just heard this and was just checking in with people. And then luckily got an interview with them. And I must have done quite well in the interviews, I guess, right? Or must have also said some things that not only the front office liked at ENCE, but also what how I kind of see CS must have also kind of struck a nerve with gla1ve, right? Because he thinks very much alike like I am, and we're getting along very well as of right now. The last couple of months, what has been 4 or 5 months now, it's been working really well together, the two of us, right? And yeah, I'm very thankful for the opportunity because, like you said, who would envision a coach from Entropiq going directly afterwards to ENCE, right?
Sure.
So either must have had some people talking good about me, or must have done somewhat of a good job in the past or in the interview. So I'm just grateful for the opportunity, and working my ass off on a daily basis to make sure that I get the team back to where they want to be.
Give me some thoughts on gla1ve then, because I always think though all the Astralis players almost got this weird image, because it's just what fanboys are like. They have to believe every team that wins, it doesn't on camera say, fuck you, like in the player cams. They always think if you win, everyone's like best friends and all think the same way. And I can tell you, mate, internally inside Astralis, maybe one day some of this will come out. Even when they win all those championships, they would have times they would like disagree on vision of the game or who should play what spot and stuff. And actually, if you just know gla1ve's personality, he's not the super chill IGL. He's a guy who has very high standards. He definitely has his own vision of the game, etc. So who is he and what's he like to work with?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, gla1ve is he has very high standards when it comes to his team and also his approach to the game, how he wants to call, how he wants to design rounds and all these things. So you have to be really structured working with him together. You have to have good ideas. I want to say he is super or extremely smart, and he knows when to call what. So if you provide him as a coach with like the right tools, like strategies or just gimmicky plays, moves, whatever, he'll know best when he'll even know better when to call it than you.
He's
right?
insane at reading, right? Like reading the opponent and stuff.
It's crazy. Like we went over, like we had a couple of days of practice right before Elisa Masters Espoo, like I think 6 or 7 days of practice. And we obviously had a very limited playbook or strat book at the time. And he, like, what all the strats that we had in the playbook, he called, and he knew best when to call him. And most of the time, I would say 8 out of 10 times the call was spot on, and we were entering either an empty bomb site or where it was just maybe just like one guy defending, for example, right? So he's doing a phenomenal job on like having a really solid read on the game and the opponents. And this obviously comes from his work ethic as well, right? Because not only does he have like a coaching staff around him who just works for him pretty much and provides him with all the intel, but he on top of that is just also watching a lot of film or demos himself and prepares himself for the matches. So not only is he fully relying on the analyst or the coach providing him with the data, but he's also making like sure he watches for his own position inside the game himself, right?
Right.
Because if he's getting the data from the analyst or me, like infos, it's mostly the bigger picture of the enemy team, right, of the opponents. But he needs to also know like what is happening on my position, can I like what do I need to be expecting and all these kind of things. And he's doing a phenomenal job there. Like whenever we are having an official, like he's always preparing the same way. He's very consistent with his work, and that's what makes him such a great IGL. And just I enjoy it on a daily basis working with him, right? Just like I was enjoying it working with Thorin, because both of them are great IGLs. Obviously, gla1ve has won far more tournaments and has is one of considered the GOAT IGLs in CSGO. And I just soak up everything and learn as much as I can on a daily basis. And I obviously try to contribute as much as I can and try to kind of just poke him and with ideas and just toss him the ball a lot of times, theory craft together with him, like just to give him a lot more ideas that he can sometimes utilize in games. And whenever he does, it just obviously it feels good because these things then mostly work out and we are working really good together. Either me suggesting things and then him tweaking some little details there, or he is bringing up a new round or new like aspects to our game and I'm tweaking some couple of things there. And it's just going really well so far, and I really enjoy having him as my IGL.
Now it'll make sense why I actually asked you about a player being loaned to a team that wasn't your team and never happened. Because one of the reasons I also thought to do this interview is when the success came out of nowhere at Elisa Masters, obviously everyone's like, okay, we'd heard, like, put it this way, I'd heard of Caspacy. I'd never heard of any of the fucking other players. Like, I don't watch the academy levels. I don't watch whatever level Nethew played on. Like, I'm not watching ENVyUs NXT or whatever, right? But the vibe was, I mean, sadly, to a casual fan, they're going to go, must be gla1ve. gla1ve must have, like, scouted everyone again because people just try to find somebody to give the credit to. And I was told, like, you were the person who kind of scouted these players and picked them out. And rather than go, by the way, with some, I've heard there was options to get, I know Natu, there was options to get much bigger names than this, obviously. I mean, especially if you're a team like ENCE that has some money and some status, you can always get, like, like gla1ve, you can get players that had big names before that won another chance. So it's a big gamble to go with young players like this. So the reason why, actually, when I saw Podi, I saw Sprouting in my brain, I was like, oh, maybe you had him before, but you really just scouted these players? You just watched them play and picked them out?
Yeah, it was pretty much like this. I mean, certainly, like we discussed it a bit earlier, I was in Entropiq and I was just competing against these kind of teams on a daily basis, right? Either in practice or on officials in the CCTs or all these kind of online tournaments, right? So I obviously knew already coming into the ENCE interview, I already had a list prepared of like 15 to 20 candidates of players who I would like to bring in the future, right? Because I already knew coming into ENCE that there is going to be some changes needed, right? Because there is just too many players with similarities and they were missing key aspects and key roles in the game. So coming into this, I already had a list prepared of players. Night Unix, Kaspersky were both on them. And in the beginning, I was just not sure if it was just one change needed or two changes needed. But the more time I spent with the team and EPL on Malta, it became more apparent to me that there's two changes needed. And having obviously spoken then to everybody on the team, Samda Young, gla1ve, Podi, etc., right? It became apparent to me more and more that we are going to require two changes needed. And then I already knew beforehand, with my preparation being done before the initial interviews, what kind of player I will need to be bringing in. And then we just did some couple of tryouts with the players and didn't take long for everybody else to get excited and them just pretty much telling me like, hey, we really need those guys. And then just, pretty much just gave me the feedback that I did a decent job scouting these players again. But I mean, anybody could have pretty much suggested Night2, right? I mean, Apex was backing him up
true.
on Twitter as well. And I was also obviously talking to Dan, Apex myself, then just to get some feedback. How is the guy, like what can I be expecting from him? Can you give me some input? And all these kind of things. But like I said, it was mostly me. I was obviously asking like also the players like, hey, do you potentially have any kind of suggestion? Like, do you have like names to throw it out there? I'm open to any kind of suggestion. And but those two were actually my initial suggestions or candidates, so to say.
I also think that team has shown quite a good model for how you can bring in young talents like that. Because first of all, they actually do all fit their roles. It's not like you brought them in, like, which often happens, by the way. Some player goes up to the top level and then they go, hey, welcome, you're taking this shit spot here that no one's like, what the fuck? You recruited me because I was a star. Like, I'm an opera, I'm an entry fragger or whatever, you playmaker. Like, this is not my role. I'm a support now. So first of all, the young players fit their roles. But as I also said on the desk, I think the shrewd part is I've seen a lot of people make new rosters that are like 5 or 4 rookies, and it's like, bro, what are the odds all of them work out and all work out together? So I actually think what you've done makes way more sense, because if you think about it, gla1ve and Some Young showed already when he was in Monty that he was way better than he was in Na'Vi. They actually probably did make him play like spots and shit that he didn't want to do in that team. He already showed he was a quality player in that Monty. But if you think about it, him and gla1ve are the veterans, and they're filling out some of the squad, etc. And then the young players get to do their thing. That's actually how CS should be. We shouldn't be doing this bullshit where you come in and you start almost like doing the worst job when you're recruited to do potentially the best job. So it's an interesting blend. What do you think about this balance?
This balance is detrimental. It's like really, really fucking important when it comes to a team, right? This is obviously like sometimes the way how I was like building the team in Entropiq, for example, together with Tizian, we were also looking at like okay, how many rookie, like what is the rookie to veteran ratio, so to say, right? Like, do you have like 2 rookies? Do you have 3 rookies? Like, because the higher the amount of rookies you have, the more inconsistent your results very likely going to be in the beginning, right? Maybe on the long run, but CS is very fast paced, and orgs really don't have that patience, So you have to deliver results quite fast, I want to say. But this is also something that is really important to me, to have a very good rookie to veteran ratio. I honestly, coming into this, didn't know if it was like going to be like, hey, I need 3 veterans and just 2 rookies, or the other way around, right? 3 rookies and 2 veterans. And luckily, I do have like 2 fucking great veterans on my team with Young and gla1ve, right? So they pretty much are worth like 5 veterans on a team, because they just gla1ve has he has won everything.
Sure.
Victor is also like played really fucking well. He has played on Na'Vi, right? He has done really fucking well with Monty. And they bring just so much to the team when it comes to experience and guiding the young guns and helping them with things on and off the server. Like, it's just a pleasure to see that, right? And then the rookies, obviously, they always bring this fire and the energy into a team that hopefully ignites something, the spark within the veterans. Like, oh shit, the rookies are grinding the game so much, I need to also be stepping up. And this is kind of what you are hoping as a coach, when bringing in those rookies, that this kind of is the reaction coming out of that, that the veterans also get really motivated again and put in the extra amount of work. And it has been the case for us, at least in ENCE, the last couple of weeks and months. So I'm really I'm really grateful that it worked out like this.
When you guys came to Elisa Masters, nobody had any expectations this team could win the tournament. I mean, the joke is obviously the team's barely ever played official games, so no one even knew what to expect from this squad. And obviously people who don't watch anything below tier 1 don't know the young players you've brought in. And it's like that. It's why actually in some ways it's actually good gla1ve made that joke. Where when on the broadcast I actually told the interviewer to ask him that, just to be spicy, to basically ask him in the group stage, like, Thorin says you should just quit this international squad and just make like an all-Danish roster. That's how you'll get back to the top. And he just was like, oh, Thorin's just joking when he says that, even though he obviously wasn't. Like, he's almost saved me on that one, because now it looks like, yeah, it's just banter. But I actually did mean it. I was like, who the fuck are these players? Like, bro, like, you go where you can use your skill set, etc. So, but I even thought myself, once the team started winning, obviously an upside is, because you haven't played any officials, no one has any fucking, unless they played you in a scrim, they have no fucking clue, even, by the way, what your maps are. In fact, I can tell you right now, I'm almost certain both Mongols and Heroic got shocked by those fucking vetoes, mate. And we're like, what? And that was going to be our pick, or like, that's the map we're strong on, etc. So coming into this tournament, on paper, you're supposed to, I mean, even now you're supposed to lose to those 2 teams. Like, Mongols was really good, and fucking Heroic had just come off that heater where they could have won like IEM Rio. They were taking Na'Vi to the limit. So these teams, I think there was something like 11th and 13th in the world. Like, they were actually like teams seemed to be on the rise, and actually teams people were expecting, as they did, needed to make an impact at the fucking major. They're major playoff teams now. So not only did you guys beat them, but the Mongols won the semi-final. People will forget this. It was a BO5 in the final against Heroic. Like, that's not supposed to happen. That's supposed to be upsets in BO5. So can you give me some thoughts on this tournament? How did it go from, like, the group stage was like, aight, to it's like the team's getting better every match in the playoffs?
Yeah. This is, I mean, it's not that long ago, right? I mean, it's like, what, 2 or 3 months ago, but it still feels a bit surreal thinking about like how it all went down, because like I said, coming into this, we had like 6 days of practice. Pretty much gives us time for like 1 map per day if you want to, right? Coming into this tournament, I think we played 4 or 5 maps. Dust 2 we have played like once or twice, same as Mirage. So we were just focusing on the other 4 maps, right? And I mean, you mentioned Mongols and Heroic, but 9Z was also not too shabby, right?
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
true.
They were also a pretty decent team. So this was kind of like the first test for us coming into this, and then playing them in a best of 1. I mean, granted, I have to be honest, like everything was kind of going our way in this tournament, right? Because Heroic and I think Mongols were also Heroic and 9Z were also coming from Rio, right?
Oh,
they
right.
were just in Brazil before,
Yeah.
so they still might have been a bit jet lagged here and there, you know. Then the next factor that was obviously playing into our hands was the fact that, like you said, nobody had data on us. Nobody could say like who's playing what kind of style are they playing, like what map are we going to be expecting. So that was something, you know, that was also going in our favor. Next one was obviously home soil, ENCE being from Finland, us playing in Finland, and all of a sudden, you know, that's the next one. There was just like so many things going our way, then people having good days, gla1ve calling insane, people hitting insane shots, playing well. Everything was going our way. There was a honeymoon, obviously, next thing that played into this one. But overall, I think, like you said, it should probably not have happened in a best of 5 final. Like, Heroic probably should have beaten us in that final. I don't know why they lost it, to be honest with you. But it was just crazy looking back at this now. Like, even like now in hindsight, like we should not have won this tournament. We had like 6 days of practice, nothing really materialized. Like we had a handful of strats maybe on every map, you know, but people were just like doing things they were supposed to do. Like they were just doing their job, right? We bring in X Kaspersky, who is a fucking aggressive player, like 17 years old at the event, you know, first time playing on stage. We told him like, hey, just play like it's a fucking face-it match that you play with your friends online. Just be aggressive. Do the stuff that you're good at. Focus on these things. Like, and everybody embraced it, right? Obviously, another huge important factor was our performance coach. Like, he was doing a phenomenal job with everybody, with the entire team, helping everybody to manage expectations, making sure that we are engaging together in and outside of the servers, us going for daily walks, and all these kind of things. Like, everything was fucking A in this event, right? So just great time.
I mean, I will say, obviously, I would say this anyway, but on the desk, if you asked me what was the key thing in this series, it was just that Vertigo game, that epic OT Vertigo game. Because if you think about the way the series was going, if they win that one and pull it out after that big like comeback or whatever, then that's where like they probably do close it out. You know, like the professional aspect kicks in and they win. But that was kind of like the map of the tournament. It's also, by the way, one of the better Vertigo games I've seen. It was kind of crazy.
Oh, that was a crazy one, wasn't it? It was, we were leading 10-12 or something? 10-2, sorry, 10-2.
Yes.
And how did we even get into overtime?
Exactly.
I don't really believe this. Like, this was one of the biggest throws, like, in a long time I've witnessed, I guess. But yeah, you're right, probably. I think if we had lost this one, not sure if we could have recovered from it, mentally speaking, obviously, right? Or actually, you know what? I honestly don't know. I think we could have actually managed to come back, because at the end of the day, you know, we're already in the final. You know, we've exceeded expectations.
Oh, that's true.
You know,
Yeah.
we didn't have any pressure. We could just like go out there, just have fun, show a good Counter-Strike, you know. And I think we could have actually come back. Now, in hindsight, yeah, I think we could have, but obviously would have been a lot harder, right? Because our map pool was just not that deep enough for a best of 5 final. I think a best of 3, yeah, maybe. I think definitely could have come back if we had lost Vertigo or something. If they hadn't won Ancient in the first one, obviously, otherwise it would have been a 2-1 for them. But yeah, I think mentality-wise, given the fact that there was no kind of pressure on us, could have been still manageable for us, I would say.
Right, a topic that even was discussed at that event is the one big bomber about this like amazing run and winning the whole tournament is everyone else was like, right, let's all go off to the major now. And then obviously you guys had to be like, fuck, back to online tournaments. And like, we don't get the major. In fact, we've got to wait ages until very recently to even have a chance at a LAN tournament. So, I mean, you'd only had a few days practice before that. Right, obviously people want to sort of like keep the momentum going, you know, get to another tournament, see if you can keep it. Was it hard to keep people focused and to go back to just playing online cups for a few months?
Yeah, definitely. Right. I mean, not so much for the young guns, for the rookies, I want to say, but for gla1ve and Young, I think maybe more so gla1ve, right? Because Young was also used to it from his Monty days, grinding his way through these online stages and all these kind of things. So it was definitely challenging. I think we did a decent job because we also played 2 online tournaments afterwards, like A1 Gaming League that we won, and then CCT where we ended up losing to Spirit Academy and managed to finish 3rd to 4th or something. I think we did a decent job, but obviously, from going to winning a best of 5 LAN final against Heroic on stage in Finland in front of Finnish fans to then just not having anything to play on LAN is somewhat of demotivating, you know. But I think the coaching staff did a really good job of keeping everybody's expectations, you know, on the what do we look for on the horizon, what's up there for us, and what to grind for. And yeah, I think we've done okay, I guess, in that matter.
By the way, since you played against them in that thing, I don't know if you've ever played against the squad in practice. Obviously, that player in the Spirit Academy that everyone raves about because they think he's like the next dog, kyosuke or whatever. Is the hype justified? Is he some sort of demon?
Yeah, this guy's crazy. And I don't know. We've not only have we played against him in this CCT tournament, I think, but we've also practiced against Spirit Academy numerous times before. For Elisa Masters, after Elisa Masters, and now even in the new year, we've played them, I think, once or twice. This guy is the real deal. Literally, he's just popping off. He's our kryptonite, it also seems like. Whenever we are playing against them, this guy is just outperforming everybody else on the server, I think. This guy is really fucking good. I haven't really watched, too much of his POVs or his games, but whenever, I see him playing and I just go check stats or something, or he's playing against us, I already know, okay, not only is this guy popping off and hitting insane shots, but it also seems like his positioning is really good, right. And his understanding of the game seems to be also off the charts for a player of his age, right?
Right. If people don't know, if you don't watch the first round of the online qualifier for the Blast, you guys played the new Falcons roster. It was obviously the bounty format, and by the way, you almost won the bounty and almost got through to the next round. This was a pretty close game.
We should have won that one. That really stings till this day. We were also again in ENCE office in Helsinki in Finland, right? And us we obviously had to make a choice. We had to make a choice. Who do we pick? And there was teams left Navi. Who else was left? Vitality, Spirit was left. Who do you want to be picking? We had to pick our poison, right? And then we came up with the plan of picking Falcons because they're a new team. They also don't have that deep of a playbook, map pool, and playbook, and all these kind of things, right? And then also Train was just recently, just before the tournament, was just introduced to the map pool, right? And then we were like, okay, sure, let's go into this. Let's also pick Train. You know, if they don't ban it, let's pick it. And we were leading 12-9. We should have closed it out. We didn't, right? Because of some factors that we are fully aware of that we have been working on just recently, that we need to be still working on in the future. And same on Dust 2. I think we could have also closed it out on Dust 2, and it could have been a 2-0, but we didn't. They came out, they prevailed, right? Because of the experience. They had more experienced players on their team, which is unfortunate. Because at the end of the day, it was little nuances that made a difference, and we couldn't capitalize on it. But at least, we showed decent performance. We showed a decent level that make us hopeful for the next couple of months, because we have to be grinding the online tournaments again. And that makes us hopeful because we showed decent kind of level against a good opposition.
Being as at the beginning of the interview, you were back just playing 1.6, and then in CSGO you were playing the tier 2 level, and then even as a coach you've had to grind up over and over and over again. Does it feel wild that at 35 you're actually in theory this might be your best chance ever? Maybe you've had this, maybe this is the renaissance of your career and you can do some great things. Has it been a surreal Counter-Strike career?
It certainly has, because I didn't really get into making the transition from a player, from a semi-professional player to a professional analyst and all these kind of things. I didn't really set out a specific goal, hey, in 10 years I see myself there, right, and there, But I just I just went with the flow, and just now looking back and just thinking like, hey, next year is going to be me 10 years doing this as my job full time, literally. It's just crazy to think about, like where has the time gone? Like, and just like you said, thinking about it like now that, okay, now I'm 35 and this is like somewhat of a renaissance, like you said, or my best shot of like getting up there again, like it's actually crazy to think about that because, esports yourself, it's quite fast paced. You don't never know what's around the corner, I mean, you saw it now with the decision of making everything kind of from Valve like open circuit, and then all of a sudden like tournaments getting their status revoked, like all of a sudden you don't know what's happening, and so everything could change within a matter of seconds. But yeah, I'm just grateful to be doing this as my job, right? Because let's face it, we're very privileged here.
Absolutely.
Doing what we love as our job day in and day out is just a true blessing. And being here, like you said, and having this kind of as a renaissance, it does kind of feel surreal. But then again, 35 is not that old. And then if I look down to my teammates, I'm working with people who are 18, 19 years old.
True.
I still, in my head, I still feel like I'm that 16-year-old kid, like I still make the same stupid jokes. And sometimes they're asking me, like, hey, are you really 35? And I'm, yep, I'm 35,
Okay.
But no, yeah, it's just, I'm just happy to be here,
Being as the problem with coaches, it's also on some of the problem with IGLs is people don't know what the person's doing. What call did they do? What strat was theirs? Did they pick up the player? Did they put them in that role? As I said earlier about people trying to guess it was just gla1ve who picked up the players, even though it was not. So what I would ask you is this: if a fan was saying, "Oh, this is who NKJ is as a coach," what would be like the big picture things he would say? What qualities would he have? What would be like the profile? If this was like if they had coaches in FIFA, what would your profile be? What's NKJ like the coach?
I would describe myself as a very open-minded coach who is putting the team first, right? Who has a decent work ethic, not as hardworking as Thompson, for example, as I said earlier, right? But has a decent work ethic, who's leading by example, who's putting the team first. Like I said earlier, he's a full team player. He's making sure that everybody on the team is feeling really comfortable, and who is I want to say maybe like a player's coach, if that makes sense. Like I really want to get along with my teammates, because at the end of the day, you're spending so much time with them. You need to be getting along. And if everybody's getting along well, you're having fun together, then things will come more naturally to you, right? When it comes to playstyle and playbook, I'm somewhat of open-minded / structured, a mix of both. Like I want to be kind of structured because this is like how I was brought up in the game with the German kind of playstyle. Everything has to be like a specific way, like everything has to be kind of like set at times, But then also having that surprise element is really important in Counter-Strike, especially these days with Counter-Strike 2, right? It's just much faster paced game. And with all these international rosters, you not being able to speak in your native tongue anymore, it makes it so much harder for you to play the structured Counter-Strike still, right? Because communication issues or communication barriers are there, and then all of a sudden teams, you saw it with the old ENCE roster when Snappy was IGL there and saw the coaching combo or the coach IGL combo there. They had a phenomenal run, and Snappy was calling all these fast-paced rounds, and it was just a lot of times, this is what you have to be doing as an international roster. So coming back to that, I think I'm somewhat of a structured coach, but also believe that it is not really needed 100% of the time, or it shouldn't be 100% needed all the time, that it's only structured,
At the end of this interview, do you have a final message for people? Do you want to thank anyone or say hello to anyone?
I'm just going to say hi to my brother, because I know he's going to be watching it, and he's been really helpful in my career when it comes to that, because he helped me a lot. Other than that, just thank you for having me. Thank you for your time. Appreciated being here. And yeah, thank you for the interview.
Yeah, dankeschön.
Dankeschön, Dankeschön.
They say no man is an island. We all need people who've got our back. And supporting me and the content on my channel are the following people: Matt Pugnatio Rajcula, The Concept, Animosity, Banediesel, Ben Glass, Jasun, Jensen Goh, Tosh, Toucan, and you know it, always a special thanks goes up to my main man, Jerky's Minion. Do you want to ask a question for my video AMA? Do you want to take part in one of those lengthy discussions where I talk about whatever topics are on your mind? Do you want teasers, find out who the upcoming guests are, or maybe even to suggest a guest or a topic for my content? If any of those perks or others catch your fancy, well, put your money where your mouth is and join the Skrilluminati today, where? In the Patreon link in the description box below.